Good to go. Good evening, and welcome to the Council Advisory Committee CAC meeting of January the 8th, 2024. The meeting is being live streamed on the Town of Kentville YouTube channel. The most up-to-date meeting package is on the Town of Kentville website. On behalf of council and staff, we have a wish for a Happy New Year to all of our citizens. On behalf of council, the chair is pleased to introduce our interim CAO, Louis Coutinho, who will be with us until the end of January. And a reminder to our viewing audience that the reconciliation ceremony will take place tomorrow evening from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Lower Recreation Center, and everyone is invited. This meeting is called to order. Have all of the councillors received and reviewed their meeting packages? Does any member of council have information pertaining to a matter before this council which has not been publicly circulated? As a council advisory committee, we will vote as a committee to either send business forward to the council meeting for ratification, return to staff for further information or review, or defeat the recommendation. Members of council should be mindful of our decision-making wheel to make balanced and respectful decisions while adhering to our code of conduct. The council will be voting electronically on all motions except administrative, which will be by show of hands. Are there any conflict of interest issues that council should be aware of before the meeting commences? The chair notes that we have quorum. We have been provided with a proposed agenda. CAO, do you have any changes to the agenda?
No, Your Worship.
All right. We have a couple of items that have come forward. You will be removing item 4B, which is the brain injury of Nova Scotia. That presentation will be at a later date. And VCLA, the Valley Community Learning Association, will be making a presentation.
I hope so. The presenter's not here.
Yes, he is. I saw Peter back there. As well, if you could add item 7A, a letter from the Department of Municipal Housing and Affairs. And remove item 10A, land. This is a matter for council. And add item 10C, legal, land. Are there any further additions or deletions to the agenda? If I could have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please. Councillor Huntley, thank you for the second. Deputy Mayor, thank you. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. The minutes of the 11th of December 2023 CAC meeting have been distributed for approval. If there are no changes, the minutes are approved as distributed. If there are changes, the recording secretary will annotate the minutes in red, and the annotated minutes will be added to the electronic meeting file as approved. Are there any changes? None? All right, moving right along then. So we have two presentations this evening. The first is from the Valley Racket Center, and the second is from VCLA. Each of our presenters will have 10 minutes to make their presentation, and then they will have questions from council. And council, when our presenters up there, by your leave, to ask questions directly of our presenters. And with the Valley Racket, you did receive the presentation in your package, and you may have noted that there is an ask in this, so therefore it's on the agenda under new business. So the ask will be discussed during the new business portion of the meeting. So Mr. Galpin, the floor is yours, and the mic is on, and you can adjust your
10 minutes.
podium as required.
Yeah. Mayor Snow, thank you. Deputy Mayor Savage, Lewis, councillors, Jennifer, thank you for having me tonight. I've got a lot to go over here tonight, and Jennifer's going to help me with the slideshow here to put her through. I want to take you through where we were, where we are, and where we need to go completely up to date. What we know, you'll know. And I think it's important to do that. So if we can put the first slide up there, Jennifer.
Okay. Oh, just, where Secretary, sorry.
So, Richard, the presentation is up on the big screen. It won't be on the small screen in front of you.
Oh, okay, I'll readjust.
Yep, wonderful,
can
thank
see
you.
Yep, we're good.
Okay,
We're good, thank you.
if you just want to pull the microphone over just a little bit. There you go. Thank you very much.
Okay, is that okay? You didn't start my 10 minutes yet.
No, I did not. Don't you worry, I've got your best interests at
Because I
heart.
need it all. All right, if we can go to the first slide there, Jennifer. Our plan is to build an indoor year-round facility, to meet everybody's needs, their abilities, their what needed. We want to keep it affordable. We want it for seniors. We want it for everybody, not just pickleball, not just tennis, not just anybody. Yeah. The center will be built according to a proposed Tennis Canada. They were kind of a lead in helping us here, giving us so much expertise on building plans and so on and so forth. And the presentation outlines the design and benefits of the facility for all of us. So we can go to the next one there, Jennifer. So you'll see a plan there. That was the original plan that came to us. That's what you voted on to give us that nice piece of land there. Howard Little come in and graciously dug me some holes to see if the fill was good. It was good. We had Josh from Able Engineering come in. He did the GPS mapping, so we need to go. So, all good. Then we had to decide, this is the hard part, we had to decide, what do we want to build? Okay, Jennifer? So that's what we decided to build, a nice blue building. It's a large building. It's 270 feet by 120. It's going to be heated, air conditioned. It's going to be accessible to all. It's the bottom part, the blue part it's steel. The top part is a fabric top. It's a local company that does this out of Bridgetown. They just built one for Stadacona for the federal government. Really, really nice. It was a recreation building, really, really nice. Kind of give us the idea of where to go. So that's kind of one of the concepts of where we could go with this. So this is kind of our flagship of the whole thing. It's an interior cutout. You can see on the right are two tennis courts. On the left is 8 pickleball courts. In the middle is a mezzanine, and this is the really, really neat thing, this mezzanine. It has a viewing area. So people come in, the bottom's all washrooms and dressing rooms and offices and so on, but the top part is a viewing area, so you can see both ways in the viewing area. And like I was talking to Dave Bell, and Dave was saying, you have as many people watching pickleball as you do playing it. So this concept works pretty good for us. So if we can go to the next one there, Jennifer. Yeah, and this is the same thing, only just down the other end. And we also have the luxury here. This is national size, okay? So we can have a national tournament. So we can have, excuse me, we can have 16 pickleball in one building. Nowhere in Nova Scotia do you do that, you know? We can have 4 tennis courts. Tennis Canada wants to bring national tournaments to Nova Scotia. We would be part of that. It works out good. And that's a front view of the building, the front door, and so on. And the next one, yeah, this is standing inside and looking up at the viewing area. It's all with glass. We're going to have an elevator in there to get people up and down, and you know, because we're going to have like wheelchair tennis and stuff like that. I'll get into later, but all good. Then we'll stop at this slide for a bit here. So this is the front entrance and admittance and so on and so forth. So we got the building all good. Now we've hit a speed bump. So, a few weeks back, a month back, on a Wednesday afternoon, I decided to call 8 experts to come. We're gonna put the stakes in for the land. Where are we gonna put it? So I got Dave Bell and Craig and from the town, Richard Boyd and Howard Little and Josh from Able Engineering. We were all there. All the experts were there. So we spent an hour and a half at that lot, standing there. We went all around it, we went over it, we went through it. And after an hour and a half, not gonna fit. Building's too big. We would have to put a 900-foot retaining wall, some maybe 12 feet high. I don't think we could get the fire trucks around the outside of it for the fire marshal. Like Dave and I said, we need 75 or 100 parking spots. That wasn't gonna go. So, Plan B. So, next slide, please. So, went with Craig and we come back and we worked at the, where's some land? What can we do? So, looked at this piece of land right here. This is right across from the skate park. And it belongs to Aberdeen Paving, and Craig got me a phone number, and I got to the owner of that and talked to him for quite a little bit. He's got plans for that, but it didn't include us. So, all right, so we had to move on from that. I looked right across from that, you can't see it, but right by the skate park and ball park, there was a piece of land there I thought might work, but no, that didn't work either. So, we went to the next one. And the next one is, that's the soccer field beside the soccer dome. So we looked at that. What could we do there, you know, so on and so forth. And we had long chats, chatted a little bit while we were up there. So anyway, if you look at next slide, we pictured it in the middle of the soccer field. Now, it's in the middle of the soccer field, but it can be pushed down, it can be pushed back. It'd be best if it was pushed back, because we had, now this brings into light more good for us. So we looked at that. So if you go to the next one, so we now said, okay, we got the southerly exposure, we got everything. Could we not build a solar to go green for this project as well? So I've been in talks with 2 engineers now from Nova Scotia here, Access Nova Scotia, talking about putting in this, and it looks feasible, but because of the exposure and everything like that. So we'd go to the next one. Yeah, and that's kind of it in the winter, you know, and it works good when it's on the ground, because we'd have to deflect it to pick the sun up and so on and so forth. So looked at that. So what else could we do? So we kind of looked at, well, could it work this way on the soccer field? And you see, we're right on the very end there by the soccer dome, and we put it in there, and you know, we stepped it off and we did a GPS in the office with Craig and so on and so forth. That could be an option. If you go to the next slide, yeah, you can see there, that's a picture of it on the end of the field. And again, that's from the other side of it. So that is an option. It's not our preferred option, because it probably or might take away the possibility of getting it solar heated. So that's the end of the slideshow, and I got to try to talk quick because I'm running out of time here. But the benefits of the facility, there are a lot of benefits. We sit here, we obviously tennis and pickleball, and now building this building, you can have national, provincial, and local tournaments, you know, by the armload. Then, you know, obviously there'd be court rentals, wheelchair tennis. Kentville was already into wheelchair tennis. I was a little bit a part of that, you know. Bocce ball it's big in the States. This bocce ball or lawn bowling, the Cougar Dome in Truro use that. And it's a big revenue stream for them, probably the biggest revenue stream for the Cougar Dome in Truro. And they use it from 1 till 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and that's when a lot of the seniors that don't want a real physical activity would come out and play. I think it's wonderful. We've got interclub play. I've already been starting that. You know, Kentville and Bridgetown, we've been back and forth a bit last year, but we could turn that into a little league and get it going. University tennis. I had the opportunity this year to play with Acadia University tennis people, and it was wonderful. They come up and the Wolfville Club is where I play. And they come up, and there were 8 of them, and we would put one of us with each one of them, and we would play, and it was wonderful. But they don't have a place to play in the winter. They don't have a program. Why could we not start up a program for them? A building suitable for emergency shelter. That's big, and we all know that after floods and fires and so on. This would, you know, obviously heated and air conditioned and so on, and I imagine we'd have a generator there too. A building suitable for a conference. Sandra, you and I talked about that in the very early stages when you were out in Calgary and you went and played, or you went and had a meeting in the morning in one half and pickleball in the afternoon, you know. We got kind of a similar thing here to go with it. And then in summary, besides contributing to the environment, enhanced health and wellness, Racket Center also provides a spin-off of benefits, drawing people to the area for tournaments and sporting. It's big for that draw part of it. Also provides employment to the valley, big time too, you know. I don't know how many we're gonna have. We'll have a manager and a coach and then a bunch of people working, so go from there. Support for the facility. Tennis Canada, you know, they jumped on board. They came here. They spent 2 days with us. We went through many sites in the valley and so on and so forth. We talked about it. You know, do we have the right demographics to make it work? You know, is people going to use it and so on and so forth. They had a lot of information, a lot of stats and so on. So the big help. And they're going to build 5 this year in Canada, support them with grants. And after he come back, he said, yes, we will support it, but we want it in Kentville. And then he said, yeah, out of the 5, we are number 1. We're there, okay? We just need a piece of land. Tennis Nova Scotia, big support. They're helping us out with multiple grants and grants we didn't even know about, and Brad Lawler's all on board and so on and so forth. Kings County Vision Grant, talk to the county, all good there, you know. We're in the process, like we've kind of divided up into 2 teams on ahead with the building, and the rest are getting the money. You go from there, so that's the federal government, Cody Blois. That was a great visit. Cody, he thinks this is so needed for the valley, and he's full support for this. And when we chatted, he said, John Lohr has to take the lead. And obviously, yes. So we told him we'd get back to him when we talked to John Lohr. So then we went in and we had a great meeting with John Lohr. John Lohr, you know, lives right in here, obviously, you know, cabinet minister. He was all over this, but he was all over it because it's right. And he said, you know, you got the support of Kentville. You got the support of everybody I talked to. So he said, yes, why wouldn't I not be a part of this? He said, you know, timing is right. We haven't had things in the valley for quite a while on a provincial platform or anything. So we are, as we speak, doing up a program presentation to go to the premier. So I think that's going sometime this month. Hopefully John can get it in if we get it to him in time, and go from there. And then we have letters of support. We got one here from, these just come in, so I don't have time to get them to you, but I'll send all these to Craig and get them to you. You should read them. One here from Pickleball, amazing. Just 1,000 people here, you know? Then we got, you know, we certainly got tennis, and then we have a letter from the town of Wolfville, we have a letter from the town of Berwick, we have Kings County, and there were, you know, we're getting letters from all the groups everywhere, in all support, zero negative. And we also have, got a lawyer, and we have an accountant, and we have an insurance agent, all giving their time to get us going, helping us. So as you can see, we've come a long way. Request from the town. As we had in the other one, we would like a 50-year lease with the option for another 50-year lease for $1 a year to build on the soccer field down there. And I say the soccer field down there because I can't find any other piece, don't know of any piece, you know? Be willing to chat if there was others and so on and so forth. So, you know, and I looked on Global Earth, and I seen, you know, we got 6, 7, 8 soccer fields and indoor one and so on and so forth. Is there any way we could, you know, migrate them together or do something to help? You know, that would be a nice thing to have. Water and sewer. If we to go on that soccer field, working with Richard Boyd, the water and sewer's right there. It's just hook it up. Beautiful. Financial. I can't get into that right now, or don't want to get into that right now, because I don't know what land is going to be available, or what we can do. You know, we're willing to, if we go on the soccer field, if the pipe's got to be moved, we'll move them, our dime. You know, no dime for you, you know? So kind of whatever it needs, within reason, you know? So we'll talk that at a later date and go from there. Now, have we got any time left?
No.
Good, give me 10 seconds.
Okay.
All right. In closing, is Kentville the best location for this facility? Yes, we know that. You know, why? Access, you know? I ride the bus, that's my way to get there, you know? The support from the town is just unbelievable. I can call anybody in the town, anytime, and get answers or help, no problem. The timing is so right now. It is so right. You know, Cody got his hand in his pocket, and John Lord got his hand in his pocket. You know, time is right. You know, all our grants are lining up, everything, you know, all good. Soccer field. I understand the soccer field. You know, that's a tough situation. I know it. It's like throwing lemons out there and let's make lemonade, you know? We know it's not going to be an easy decision, but, you know, we should look it all through, you know, and where we go from there. So, thank you for having me. Any questions?
Thank you.
If I can't answer them, I give them to Dave.
Thank you very much, Richard. And as always, you're very informative. And so I will open it up to council now for questions. Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Richard. Do you have a total price tag for this?
Our estimate to build this, and we're pretty confident with our estimate, is $7.3 million.
Can you repeat? 7.3?
Yeah, 7.3.
Not 73.
No, but I'll take 73.
One other question, if I may.
Yeah.
You talked about, and I love the plans that are shown. Is there space for seating, like you talked about, possibly tournaments and national tournaments and stuff?
Up above in the viewing area, there will be stands there, roll-up temporary stands. There'll also be tables there with chairs, and there would be a sink and a microwave. We don't want to get into the kitchen thing, but this is where the town will come in. We'll get ABC restaurant to come in and cater to a tournament, you know, and that's big, you know? So it'll all be catered to. We'll have our little machines there, but other than that, it'll be catered to, and I think lots of places say, it's 120 feet by 30, so that's a big area. It'll be maybe an office up there, but that's about it, yeah.
Thank you.
Counselor Maxwell.
Thank you, Richard. It was a great presentation, and I'm very excited about this build. I just have a couple of questions. You talked about hosting tournaments in the national stage and so on. So I'm wondering, you said something about 16 pickleball courts. So are there pickleball courts underlaid with the tennis courts, and are there tennis courts overlaid on the pickleball courts? So I'm kind of wondering where we get that.
It's kind of going to be both. If you look to the right of it, there's 2 tennis courts.
Yeah.
They are just the tennis, okay?
Yeah.
But the corners are all marked off to be taped off
They can be
within 5 minutes, okay? The other end, you know, is tennis and pickleball on there at the same time.
Yeah, okay. So, but you could do it all tennis if you wanted to host a
Yeah,
tournament?
all tennis or all
pick-
pick, that's it.
Perfect.
Multifunctional is what we really wanted.
Yeah,
Yes.
perfect, that's perfect. And we may need Craig to help with this question. Now, I know that, losing a soccer field is not ideal, but I don't think the soccer field in Oakdean Park was used all that much this past summer. And I'm wondering about that, Craig, if that soccer field would become a replacement for that one, or how do we,
Hello, council. I think the next steps is to contact our local sport groups and get their perspective on it. It would be my food for thought right now.
Yeah.
And that's what we have started doing, is to reach out with our local sports, seeing how it will impact all parties before providing any type of feedback to council.
So was that park used more than I think it was, the soccer field on it, or not?
Yep.
Yeah,
it was used.
both of them were
Both were
used?
used, yes. Yeah. For soccer, for ultimate frisbee, for other sports. Yeah.
Right, okay. I just didn't notice the traffic up there for soccer tournaments or anything
Okay,
like that
yeah.
this year. So-
Yes, the primary fields for soccer are technically around KCA.
that's
But
what
we do have secondary use of at Oakdean and field floor behind the soccer facility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Richard. That was a great presentation, and so congratulations on being selected with by Tennis Canada. That's a pretty major thing. So
Yeah, they've been good.
yeah, that's wonderful. And I think we all know that pickleball is the largest growing sport in North America. I think I heard that on the news
Yep.
this morning. So
Busting at the
that's wonderful.
seams.
That's right. And I think where you touched on, affordability for the members in the community and having sort of the national tournaments, accessibility, those are all key things to council. And so just thanks for your presentation. I don't have any questions. I'd love to see this come to fruition. I know there's logistics around
the-
it, but.
The 2 people that, excuse me, the 2 people that came, Kurt from Tennis Canada and then Brad from Tennis Nova, the first thing they said, what a luxury to have that corridor of all the sporting goods, you know? And then
Absolutely.
John Lohr said, like, Kentville Recreation is the envy of all towns, because of that corridor and
Yeah,
the work
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
so on and so forth,
Yeah, job well done, great presentation, and just thank you for all your commitment to this project. Thanks.
Counselor York?
Thank you, and I apologize, this might be a question more for Craig and David, but one of the, one of the slides that you presented had shown the facility pretty close abutting to the existing soccer dome. Would that allow for the field to still exist with some infrastructure work at the bottom end? And just, I say this as if it's as easy as just shifting the field, but is there a possibility to just scooch the field down?
So there's a full-on irrigation system that's underneath the field.
Right, okay, so
there's a
no.
lot of, there would be a lot of work to be done.
Okay.
And there'll obviously be a financial hit that way. If it was shuffled over, we would lose the track.
Right, okay.
Because it would lose our access into the pond field. And we need that for emergency services, we need that for accessible parking and seating for our baseball, softball folks, and the soccer field being there. So it's definitely an interesting concept and a good, there will be some challenges, but it's, I think,
That was a very generous way of saying no.
no.
So thank you, I
not-
appreciate that. I will move on to my second question, which is actually not for you, so
Okay,
I'll get you out of the hot seat. You had talked about, Richard, sorry, you had talked about accessibility and user fees being low and essentially making pickleball and tennis a much more accessible sport for people to participate in. Have you done, and I appreciate that you might not be at the stage where that would be happening, but are you working on documents to make sure that that can be a feasible option, and would we have an opportunity to have input on how feasible that would be and how accessible that could be for residents?
Yes, we are working on that as you speak, and I can get that to you, you
I would
know.
love to see it. Thank you.
It is, there's numbers in there, and Tennis Canada has provided us with numbers supporting that, and so on and so forth.
Great.
In my 10 minutes, I couldn't bring it all with me.
Fair enough. Well, I look forward to seeing it whenever you get it.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Richard.
yeah, and these letters here from all these others, I'll get them forward. I'll go through Craig and get Craig to send them to you fellas, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Huntley.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. First of all, I want to commend you on your grant work because that's a lot of work to take on. So kudos to you for sure. I also love the idea of solar panels. That would be a rock and roll win for me. So a couple of questions.
Yes.
One, on the outside of it, I noticed two different materials.
Yes.
You've got the metal and you've got the other. Can companies advertise on outside or inside? That's my first question.
Yeah.
And second question, would there be a boardroom, say, built for if people wanted to rent it out? Because I'm just thinking extra income that you'd be able to get from it.
Okay, first question. We're ultimately looking at, the name that's on the building won't be the name. It'll be, you know, a big company on there. Never thought about selling the outside of it. Probably if we put the big one up, we wouldn't be allowed to do the outside. But the whole inside will be all filled with, you know, this court belongs to this and that court belongs to that. So, yeah, so to do that, yeah. And your second question,
About
a
boardrooms,
boardroom. I had thought about it, need to sit down and vision it, but it is exactly the road that we want to go, you know, and we talked about, you know, if we, you know, the town wanted to have some kind of a thing there, you know, we have a boardroom as well as down the workshop area and a play area, you know. Very good idea, yes, and we are thinking and looking, we're looking at pretty near anything we can think
I know.
of.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And multiple signs on the outside is contrary to our municipal bylaw, land use bylaw. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, and again, Craig, the track, we're going to try to keep the track where it is. So I would know we'll lose the track, will we? So,
A chunk of it.
but what if we go in the middle of the field? Is it necessary to lose the track?
I think if it was in the middle of the field, you wouldn't have a track either way, because you would need parking and access, and
Okay.
if you're gonna have a track, you would have a full round track, instead of half tracks. So by doing this, yes, we would lose an asset, we lose the asset of the track. For the soccer field, if you might be able to, I guess, move it all the way closer to the entranceway into the pond field, but, yeah, no track.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more concerned about the track, considering it's the only one outside of Acadia University in the local area. Plus, we have a ski skate group that uses that, so.
Correct.
Yeah, so if you can work it so that we keep that track, it would be good, but if you can't, then,
Could
yeah.
you move the track and go around the little pond and make the track that way? You know,
I
like if
think
you
it would
look and
be
you
a
push
lot
it
to
down,
move.
can you fill the pond in? Is the pond being used? You know, because there's an extra
It would be a lot
81
to
feet
move the
there.
track. Yeah,
you
okay,
know, but
yeah, thank you.
CAO, you have a question for our presenter.
Thank you, Your Worship, and great presentation. I just want some clarity. So the ask of our council is a lease, as
Yes.
I understand it, a 50-year lease. The and sewer and water installation. That would be that's the ask. Is there any other financial ask in terms of operating costs? So just wondering who's maintaining it, who's?
We, as a non-charitable organization, we would be looking after the building. We'd have our own board of directors. We have done up a budget, and then and Tennis Canada helped us and come down, and this is where they're a big help again. And we put together a revenue stream. And our revenue stream at 50% for 8 months was more than it would cost us to run it. So it would never look to have to come back to the town. It's quite self-sufficient with the business plan that we have done.
Your Worship, I have a further question. In terms of the existing assets that the town owns, the soccer field, I know there are a number of questions here. Is there any intention to actually, we'll have to, I guess, assess, and I'm only new at this game, in this town, but assess that asset versus the new asset you're placing on top of it. Is there a possibility of including, having the soccer stadium part of so you have more like a complex, or is that not an option?
Could be an option down the road.
It's just a concern that we're replacing one asset with the other, and it's just something for us to think about. But Your Worship, I think it might be appropriate for council to direct staff to come back with a report.
Certainly.
Because it seems like we'd like to get a little more information.
We're very early into this, oh my God, it didn't fit. So Craig and I have just talked limited, and Christmas come in there and so on and so forth. And so we haven't, looked at, all the positioning and everything that we could do there with there. Now, here's a question. The piece of land behind the Ultramar where the old juice plant used to be, is that town land? No?
No.
No. I was looking today, and where else is there, thing like that? No.
It is for sale.
Well, it's for sale. Yeah, I'll bet. There goes $7,000.
CEO, did you have any further questions?
No, Your Worship.
All right. Councillor Maxwell, I will just
more.
inform you, number 3.
Yeah. Again, Craig and to the group, I'm also wondering if you looked at Oakdean Park, there's 2 soccer fields up there, and maybe putting it up there instead of down in the corridor where soccer is, field is, and the
The
track.
racket facility?
Hmm?
The racket facility
Yeah.
to go up there?
Yeah,
We can look at that option.
yeah. I think that way we save the soccer field and we save the track. So I think it's worth looking at.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bus access there?
Yeah. Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Richard. That was absolutely wonderful. We look forward to further information, and council will be discussing this under new business. So many of the questions that have come up will probably come up again, and CAO, I would invite staff if they wanted to stay for that part of the discussion, just to hear what council is saying. Otherwise, they can listen to us on YouTube tomorrow. And again, Richard, thank you very much, and to your team, thank you for what you're doing. And we're absolutely thrilled that you think Kentville is the place, because we think it's the place as well.
All right, thank you.
David Lang, and I'm with Richard on
Yes.
the committee. I just, one comment before we end, and it, maybe I can give you.
Sure.
Richard has laid out very adequately and well our proposal. I just want to mention that a lot of work has gone on to get to this point for a year and a half, and what I'm worried, one of our worries, is that if we don't do it now, I don't know when we do it, because we have reached a point with grants and support. So
We
wanna-
sense, we
I
sense
just
your
wanna-
urgency.
Yeah, I'm afraid of
Momentum.
it, yeah. Anyway, parting comment, and thank you for your attention to it.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, our next presentation is VCLA, and Mr. Peter Gillis is here to make this presentation. Peter, we missed you in December, but glad you're here in January.
I was diseased, but I'm over it now.
I hope you are.
Not many people walk in and tell us they were diseased.
You're ready, you can just.
Hit the space bar?
Yeah,
Space
spacebar
bar.
or cursors.
Okay. Okay, thanks very much for, is it showing up there? Are you seeing?
There you go.
Okay. That's my first joke. So people keep changing our sign. We had to add plexiglass because we're not the Valley Communist Learning Institute. We do, we have it covered now, but it kept getting changed, and somebody has it in their head that we should change our name. So we're an adult education organization. I think council knows who we are. I don't know if everyone in the room does, but so we provide upgrading in a number of areas. One of our recent GED grads won the Council of Federation Literacy Award. In October was presented that award with our local MLA and two ministers, Jill Baltzer and Brian Wong. Shelley got her GED, took part in an entry-level healthcare-related program and got a job in a walking distance of her home in North Kentville. And so she's a single mom who's supporting her family after coming through our program. We also offer language courses. Those are downtown, at our downtown office, which is on Bridge Street, 49 Bridge Street. And that's in classroom activities as well as one-on-one. There's actually 27 active volunteer tutors who work with our students in that program in addition to the classes that we have at various levels. We support adults to get their high school diploma. This was a graduation ceremony in New Minas for the adult high school, and 5 of the 11 grads at the adult high school that year came through our program and were supported by us. That's the most we've ever had. That's in addition to the GED students that we helped. We also offer a lot of other support. So this fellow Scott is speaking at our annual fundraiser. Scott got help to complete his Red Seal certification. So he's a welder now, certified as a Red Seal welder working at the shipyards. He'd been there for a number of years and was asked to upgrade, and he, like many adults, I guess, who went into hands-on learning early on, did not, he was good at it, but he didn't have a certification. So he came to us to get support to do that. We also have a youth employment program that runs in Kentville and beyond, and students have an opportunity to, after they upgrade or work on their language skills, to work in self-employment. So this is an example of one of the students that we work with who's also received cooperative education credits, which will help him get his high school diploma. He also has his own business and that's him at one of the farmers markets. We use our new building that's new to us in May 14th, 2021. We formally purchased the former Christian Reformed Church at 118 Oakdean, and we've licensed a commercial kitchen. So a number of different groups use that facility in addition to ourselves. This is the Northeast Kings High School students came and helped us run a community supper every Tuesday night. So tomorrow night, community supper, 5 o'clock, come have a meal. We also offer food security workshops. So Jason Lynch, he's a chef you may know from Cumin and also Domaine de Grand Pré, I believe. And he's delivering a workshop on how to make a chicken last for a family of 4 for 4 meals. So that was his workshop that he designed. And that's our new commercial kitchen there up at Oakteen. We're still downtown, and we work in both Kings and Annapolis counties, so we still have an office downtown, and our language program is still downtown as well. And this is a very short presentation. We also have some dreams. So that's an overhead view of our building, and we're looking at an all-season greenhouse in sort of the front of the building there. That would both provide all-season growing for our community kitchen, which provides adult learners with a meal every day that they're at class. And it would also be tied into the heating system of our building, so that it would take us off the electric boilers that are currently providing in-floor heat in the main former church building. So that's one of our new things that we're working on. So yeah, so it was just a short kind of update to let you know what we're doing and remind you of who we are. Does anyone have any questions about?
Thank you very much, Peter, and council. If there are any questions, the floor is open. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Peter.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
Thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
So I've been to one or two of your community suppers, and they're fantastic.
Yeah.
And they really bring the community together, so thank you for doing that. I'm just wondering about the all-season greenhouse and sort of getting rid of electric boilers and things like that, and what that cost looks like for you or for VCLA.
Yeah, it won't be 7.3 million, but we put in a proposal to the Sustainable Communities Challenge Fund.
Okay.
So we have a letter, your staff generously provided a letter of support for that.
Great, yes.
So that was for $1 million,
Okay.
which involves, there'll be a lot of in-kind associated with that. It's a fairly big build.
Mm.
We're working with a couple of different groups, a local businessman, J.D. McCulloch,
Mhm.
J.D., and then he works with a group in Scotland, and then there's a group in the Yukon, actually. So our contact in the Yukon is looking to expand. He's an engineer, and it's his model for this greenhouse, and he'd like to profile it here in Kentville
Oh,
and then use it as a stepping stone to do other sites. He's particularly interested in cold climate, all-season growing, so
Okay.
it would be a public facility, so people could come in and learn about how they could build their own $1 million greenhouse.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Really appreciate that.
Councillor York.
Thank you. Congratulations on no longer being diseased. That's always great. More importantly, is there the potential for the greenhouse to be leased or to work in partnership with community groups that can either buy a plot or contribute financially and purchase what you produce? Thinking specifically of places like Open Arms or the school cafeteria that might benefit from having a hyper-local source for these things.
We use our community garden that way already, so if there's ways to do that, we'd certainly be open to. I mean, we have people come work with us all the time, so I would say yes. And we're involved in some catering already that we've just started doing with the Booker School and the Highbury Education Center. So we're very interested in seeing what we can do to expand food security in our communities. Yeah, so absolutely. And if they want to give us money, that's even better.
Peter, have you explored any other potential grants? I'm thinking through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, particularly with sustainable communities. Again, they have other funding other than this provincial one that you're going after right now. The other one that comes to mind is Perennia from an agriculture perspective, because they are looking at this sort of thing. One of the things that we did with the MIT REAP, so the Regional Economic Acceleration Program, had to do with creating these greenhouses. So I know that there is funding in the area, but we may just want to touch base and see what other avenues are out there for you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, So the Federation, they're the Sustainable Challenge people, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know there were other ones, but I'd be keen to know about them,
Yeah,
sure.
and-
We expect to hear back in March on that one?
Okay, that's really great. And I'm gonna say that the nice thing is that because you are termed a community and a nonprofit, you know, you are eligible for this funding. You know, typically, the FCM money flows from the feds down through the province and then municipally. But when we have groups within our community that I'll say we support, that, you know, the funding can go directly to you. So, so there is that availability. So the deputy mayor asked you how much money you're looking for. So right now, you're looking for $1 million, but like, do you have a big number, or are you just looking for $1 million?
And I didn't come to ask, I'll just say.
No, but,
Actually, it was 1.4, but the grant had a cap of $1 million.
okay, so you guys are
And
looking
that
for
included
1.4.
40% from us.
Right.
Provided.
Right, okay,
So 300,000 of that had to be a cash in kind.
right,
So this consortium I talked about in Scotland,
sure,
they're the ones actually putting in the cash.
the 300,
And we're
okay,
gonna come up with the 100 in kind, one way or the other.
okay.
So that's why it's an even million.
Okay. No, it's good to know how much money you're
Yeah.
looking at, because a lot of these grants, we do have the capacity to stack. So, you know, you don't have to give in one for the other. And if we know your final number, and I'm also going to say that our member of parliament really likes to have nice numbers when he can go and say, this is how much I need. And, you know, it makes it much easier for his ask.
I heard they're in each other's pockets. I didn't hear that.
That was kind of scary, but we'll go with the fact that they bring money, so, yeah. And they've been good to us,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, if there's no further questions, council, I'll say thank you very much, and we're glad you're well again.
Can I just say one last little thing?
Sure,
So I think I do have an ask related to taxation, but it isn't tonight. This is more of a friendly update.
yeah.
I won't come to the next one. Just hoping for commercial tax
And,
exemption.
and I'm going to say that from your last time you were here, that did go to, I'll say, the CAO's desk and then down into our finance department. So the whole file is being looked at, and so I'm sure that once our new CAO has his footings, that more information will be forthcoming on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you very much, and thank
Thanks
you
for
for
having me.
all
Okay.
VCLA does. And we won't be there tomorrow night.
You will be?
We're renaming the street. And I made comment just a moment ago with regards to our incoming CAO, and I don't know if he was planning to hide in the audience or if he knew that I was going to point him out, but our new CAO is Jeff Lawrence, and he's in the audience tonight, so kind of getting the lay of the land. So thank you so much for being here this evening, Jeff.
I'm enjoying the meeting. I would never want to be sat right beside Louis. I did that in Windsor for about 12 years. That was enough. I'll follow him. I won't try and sit beside him.
Okay, that's great, thank you. All right, moving right along, so we've had our presentations, and now we move on to our department reports and recommendations. So the directors have all provided their reports for council's review, and will provide an update and receive questions from council. The reports will be presented and are part of the record of the meeting. Only items of new business arising from the reports will be taken for motion. And council, your questions to you may direct directly to the directors once they've made their presentation. And CAO, if you would like to introduce your department heads.
Thank you, Your Worship. We've got all of our directors here today will be making presentations. And first on the docket is Wanda, Director Matthews, if she could present to you.
Good evening. In your package, you have the report for the month of December, and there are a few operational highlights that I'm happy to take questions on later, but wanted to point out, there was a question last month around the borrowings for Valley Waste. We put forward 2 temporary borrowing resolutions coming to council at the end of the month, and just wanted to clarify that they were for 2 different fiscal years, therefore the calculation was different. They are an annual adjustment, so that's what that last bullet was referring to. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. You also have Appendix A, which is the statement of operations for the end of November. You will note in the overall analysis that assuming a spending pattern that is a straight line, we would expect our revenue and expenses to be around 67%. However, our revenue is at 88.6% at this point in time, and our expenditures at 71.8%. Of course, most of our revenue has been collected. It is tax related, and therefore that number is higher. On the expenditure side, there were really no unusual unknown expenses that we have to worry about. It was really business as usual for the most part for that one. If there are any specific questions on the statement, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, thank you very much, Director. Are there any questions with regards to the details that you've been provided with? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I don't know if this falls in the right place or not, but I was looking at public health and housing, and it was at minus 11 point something or what other. I'm kind of wondering if you could explain that a little bit further, like what's going on with public health and housing,
Right.
and what does that category consist of? Like,
Okay.
what are the expenses and so
Yeah.
on?
So the expenses there relate to the portion that the town is required to pay for our public housing. So there is if the public housing for areas within Kentville exceed the budget, we have to pay a proportion of that. If it is less than budget, we don't always get any extra money our way. So the financial statement, the way I've presented it, it does provide what percentage of budget we've spent this year and what we spent last year. So so for this year, we do know that there was an additional cost over and above what we budgeted for. And that amount is what's embedded within the statement. So that's why it's a positive 8.4. Last year, it's a negative because we didn't have to necessarily spend the level that we had budgeted for. So we always assume around 90,000. It can go anywhere from 30,000 to 100,000, just depending on how that service fits within its budget, which is outside of our mandate.
Thank you.
Does that answer?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are there any further questions for the director? No further, Councillor Zabian.
Thank you. Thanks, Director. Just wondering, I see you mentioned PACE here again, the fee that we paid to apply. Is there any update on that yet, do you know, or should I wait and ask the CAO if?
I think it's a wait and see.
Okay.
So I believe at the last meeting, it was commented that we do have some contracts that we've sent back with some queries around those contracts. And I believe as our new CEO gets in his place, we'll be able to look at moving those contracts forward.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
it's a hold, not,
All right.
not a stop. So that is Appendix A. We do have Appendix B, which has some more detail than usual. So our capital fund, you will note in Appendix B, we had a budget of $6,605,900. Last month, we had forecasted spending $5,461,900. This month, our forecast has been refined through conversations with each of the individual directors and looking at our actual spend to date. And we are now projecting to spend $4,096,700. So some significant variance. You'll see I've added that column because of the value. Many of those variances relate to required deferrals. So the large one that you will see is the Green Infrastructure Fund, the Trails and Pathways, and that would be our AT plan and the sidewalks that are delayed for the most part for that 900,000. And I'll ask my colleagues if they want to clarify or add anything, feel free. We also know that we had deferred, excuse me, some of the work on McDonald, Henry, and Braeside. That is our Canada Community Building Fund or our former gas tax. So that 200,000 is in addition to, I want to say, yes, that is a new one for this, not a new one for this month, sorry. So that was a deferral that was there previously. That was the top lift, correct, Director? Yes. So that's one from the previous month. We also have included another deferral for our Donald Hiltz. So it was 250,000 last month. Forecast now we're at 100. So we're mainly doing consulting work for that, and so are anticipating the larger costs coming in next fiscal year. If we look at on the transportation side, the other items that are there, you can see there's about 412,000 that we have as a variance. Most of that is moving it forward into next year. You'll see two items that are negative because we had cost overruns. Canaan Avenue was one that we spoke about before. We also, in the Parks and Recreation space, you'll see that there's $253,000 change for this month. On the positive side, 87,300 of that are just savings on projects that came in under budget, so we won't be looking to request to defer any funding for those items for next year. And that really leaves us with a couple of, under 200,000 from them for savings, or deferrals for next year. Looking at my notes. So the previous amounts also included the street cleaner. If you recall, we were deferring that till next year due to purchasing timing, correct, Director Bell? Yep, due to the timing of the purchase. We had already anticipated moving 594,000 for the Hiltz project, and I already mentioned the top lift. So very detailed percentage expended. Many of our projects are very close to 75% done at this point, those that are not being deferred. So at this juncture, I haven't received any concerns by my colleagues around getting those that are in progress complete and spent by year end.
All right.
Happy to answer.
Thank you very much.
questions on the speed.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Matthews, the protective services one, the 115% expended. So it's not much of a variance, but I'm just wondering if you could provide some rationale around that. And maybe you already did and it missed me by, but I don't think.
That's a good question. See my more detail.
Okay.
So those, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but those projects, there you will see a few where the spending appears to be over what was anticipated. Last year, when the budget was done, we did the budget for capital in February.
Okay.
We didn't know what the final cost would be for all of the programs and services.
Okay.
So we carried forward the costs into this year because they were work in progress and said, we'll apply the funding against that in 23-24.
Mm-hmm.
However, the funding that was set aside in 22-23 wasn't consistently included in the capital budget for 23-24.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
So the money's still available in the reserve. It wasn't spent.
Right.
So that money is available. It just isn't noted in the actual capital budget. So it looks like they're over, but they're really not
really not.
over what the 2-year together
Yes.
cost and budget would have been.
Okay, great,
Does
thank
that
you.
make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
So we will, for the upcoming budget, make sure that we're looking at, that's one reason we wanted to do a very detailed analysis now, so we could anticipate what those additional costs would be and put that in the budget as a carryover for next year.
All right, thank you very
Okay.
much, Director.
So that is Appendix B, and the only other item I wanted to highlight, we've been keeping track of how we're doing in terms of our recovery rate on taxes, and you will see we are at 1.9%, just about 2% outstanding at this point in time. Another 17% collection for the month, so really trending positively and very little remaining in terms of tax owing. And that's my report this evening.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Your worship, I'll call upon our Director of Many Hats. He's going to be reporting on the, at least at this time, planning and community development. Thank you. Director Bell.
Thank you, CAO. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll touch on the highlights of the Planning and Development staff report for the month of December 2023. Under development permits, there were 8 development permits issued in the month of December, with a total building valuation of just over $875,000. To compare that to December of the previous year, it's up considerably. The total for the December of the year prior was $206,000, so up considerably from a year before. Under subdivisions applications, there was one new subdivision application in the month of December, and skipping down for some of the highlights down to MPS amendments. First reading of the MPS amendment. First reading of the amendments to the MPS will be held during January's council meeting, and there's a recommendation following this part of the report. RFP for planning services. Staff have compiled and posted an RFP for planning services for the next year, whereas a planner position still has not been filled, and our 6-month planning contract with C+D Community Design is ending at the end of this month, and the development officer will be leaving for maternity leave in the next few weeks. The RFP closes next Thursday, January 18th. Under festival and events, Center Square is booking up quickly for the 24 season. Groups looking to book the square are encouraged to contact Lindsay Young as soon as possible to secure those spots. Also, I guess under events, the Fire and Ice, annual Fire and Ice Festival will take place in February as usual. And skipping down to projects, ancillary dwelling unit information. So the Planning Department and the Housing and Community Partnerships Coordinator have been working together to create a new page on the town's website with an intention to help residents navigate the secondary and backyard suite program offered through the province, and the town's land use bylaw allows for ancillary dwelling units. And I guess skipping down to highlights under meetings and training, our Community and Economic Development Officer was chosen to participate in, it's a big acronym, and the GMIST Activate, and that's the Grossmorn Institute for Sustainable Tourism, for activating community tourism. And we will get a project. It's sort of a free of charge training for our Economic Development Officer, and she'll be doing training over this calendar year with a project to be determined, I guess, to help boost tourism, and includes, I think, some training for her in Newfoundland later this spring. And I think that's the highlights from the Planning and Development report.
All right, thank you very much, Director, and we have a couple of questions here. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. Thanks, Director Bell. I'm just wondering, and this may be information we can't have, but I'm just wondering. We have one subdivision permit, can we know where the subdivision is?
I believe that, the word subdivision can mean a lot of things. I
Yeah.
believe that is not a subdivision in the sense of a large subdivision. That's just a piece of land that could be divided to be split or that sort of thing. So anything, when you divide a lot into two,
You call
that's
it
still considered a subdivision. So it's a subdivision, not a large-scale development.
Okay, great. And the other one, just a comment, I noticed that the NECAC Prom Committee is active again this year, and I'm just really hoping that we work with them to make whatever vision that they have come to fruition without it having to come to council.
That certainly is the intention. I know they've been in contact. The student representative, in particular for this year's grad class, has been in touch with Ms. Young, and they are looking to use Center Square exclusively this year, and not necessarily the street shutdown that they have done in the past. So, working with them and looking for a great
And I think there
event.
was some confusion last year with the student representative and actually the adult representative from the
Absolutely.
committee. And we
Yep.
kind of need to make sure that they're
All on the same page.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor York.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Bell. And I apologize, this may be not your wheelhouse, but I'm going to put it out there. I have concerns with the planning position not being filled and seeking outside services for whatever the contract would be for a year. Have we given any thought to reworking what the planning position would be in an attempt to perhaps entice other people to come and work here? I notice it's no longer online, and I'm assuming that's because we are doing outside contract or an RFP. But if we haven't filled it, is it now the opportunity to perhaps reimagine what that ought to be or rework what that ought to be so that we can have an established planner as we move forward with projects?
That is, of course, the end goal is to not only fill our vacant planning position, but to even grow it to be bigger than it was. We no doubt as we will no doubt grow, we'll need a planning team bigger than it ever was, perhaps 2 planners, but we have to get 1 before we get 2. We do need a firm in place, whether that's for 6 months, 3 months, or a year, but that is the sort of the immediate requirement until we fill that position. But we have reevaluated, we've reposted, we've had some applicants that the interviews have been done, and we haven't been able to find the right candidate. So it is certainly our goal to
still ongoing.
to have it on in-house and on staff. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm sort of echoing what Councillor York said, and I think when we look at the Donny Hills Connector and we look at the other lands that are to be developed, and to your point, we're certainly in that growth phase, and we will be for quite some time. I had some concerns around, not just the 6-month planning contract with C&D coming to an end, but that, looking with an RFP going out for the ensuing year. So I certainly hope that it is the intent as we move forward, or as staff moves forward, that we will be looking for 1 or 2, to your point.
It definitely is.
Because it's, they're pretty big roles, and it's, the town is gonna continue to grow.
We've certainly had meetings with our interim CAO, and will be as well with our incoming
Yeah.
CAO next month for sure to
Great.
to work toward that goal.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. Talking about this planning position, I'm just wondering, have we costed it out? Like, is it more expensive for us to have an in-house planner, or is it cheaper for us to hire a firm to look after our planning needs? Has that been costed, or in your knowledge?
We know what the 6-month contract has cost us, and it is no doubt less than perhaps a 6-month salary, but not the same level of service that we would have from a full-time employee. We need a leader of that department, and that's the ultimate goal for sure.
Great, thank you.
All right, Director, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So I do have recommendation.
We're going to do that
regarding
under
that?
new business.
New business, very
Yes,
good. So I'll be
and-
staying for that, I guess. All right.
Well, you don't actually have to stay for it because.
It's pretty straightforward, I think.
It
but-
certainly is, we've already been briefed on it.
Right.
And we were provided, Kirsten provided us everything in our package.
Very good.
And so the recommendation is to approve first reading. And of course, as CAC, we will just be doing that to council. So there's
Yeah.
really no need for,
Very good.
for you to make that recommendation to
thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
Your worship, if I could call upon Director Craig Langell, Parks and Recreation.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, in your package, you would have the staff report for the month of December. There are three quick highlights within this report, two very exciting, one scare that we got through, but all in all, a great month of December. So we have signed an agreement with the Kings County Family Resource Center and Kings County Academy to offer 48 spots for before and after school programming. On your notes, you'll see that there's up to $15,000 that we'll be getting from the province. You can actually mark that up to $28,000 now. Becca Craig has been working with the province to get additional funding for specialized one-on-one staff that could be there to support for those that need it, so it's more inclusive. So the three of us, the three partners are working together to ensure that we do have 48 spots available, and hopefully we can further increase that in the future and potentially have something in the summer as well. Another exciting note is that we have hired Amanda Haslett as our administrative and communications coordinator, and she started January 2nd. She started last week. And then finally, over the Christmas holidays on Christmas Day, the plant room had a malfunction and our brine system had failed, which means our ice stopped freezing. And staff, I'll have to give an appreciation note to our supervisor of facility operations and our arena chief, who worked through 25th, 26th, and 27th to ensure that the ice and plant was back up and running, so we could salvage the ice surface for the remainder of the year. So what had happened was that there was a power surge that had caused our brine pump to stop working, and it had passed along to many other electrical units within our plant room. So we called upon Nova Scotia Power, the fixed transformer, Simcoe Services, which is our refrigeration company, to help with getting some fuses and some other materials. And then we had electrician services that came in to get it finally up and running. So it was down for a couple days, and the staff communicated with all those groups to ensure that they're aware of the scenario, and we were able to get it back up and running on the 28th. So all in all, good news to get it back up and running. And that is my report. Any questions?
All right, thank you very much, and we do have some questions. Councillor Maxwell.
No, thank you. Thank you for this report. I'm wondering what the cause of the electrical surge was? Like, did Nova Scotia Power, were they able to say, this is the cause of, why this happened? And then, if so, is that situation resolved, or could it happen again?
That situation is resolved. It was an outage from the transformer across the street that was directly feeding into our brine system. The rest of the plant room, for the majority of it, was on and working, so that's why there was a little bit of confusion at the start. But staff rectified it pretty quickly within 24 hours. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Are there any further questions for the director? Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. It's my understanding, and I think speaking with you before, we're looking at getting, I hate the word feasibility study, but an estimate on, say, a 25-year lifespan to continue use on the rink. Should we expect that sometime soon, the report?
Yeah, so it'll happen in stages, and I can get you guys at work at council a more detailed approach to that. We had all of our structural, mechanical, refrigeration engineers all in the facility over December. What happened over the break will also be provided to that consultant for the conditions assessment portion of it. The part on the conditions assessment that will be lacking will be the foundation report, because we have the ice surface in and it can't be assessed until the ice surface is out. So that won't be happening until April. But we should have a firm understanding of our condition of all scenarios within the arena, probably by February, March.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your worship, I'll ask Chief Marty Smith, if he would present his report. Oh, sorry, did I, yes, yeah, it is you.
It is me.
Yeah,
It's me.
yeah.
I think it's me.
Dave has so many hats now.
Oh, sorry.
I thought he took over police as well.
He's gonna have to wait now, I'm up here, so. Good evening, council, Mayor Snow, CAO, and Jen. Happy New Year to all. Hope you guys had a chance to relax over the break and get some downtime and refresh and for a big 2024. You should have before you our package from our last board meeting. Just a couple highlights to present to you, and our training has gone up quite a bit. It was down for a couple months, and our training hours are improved, I won't say improved, increased a lot in the last little while. A lot of training's gone on, and a lot of meetings, as you can see from the list. I think I mentioned in the past that we've now included stats as well for our community crisis navigator position as well. And our financial report was provided as well. And we're, although short in a few spots and people are working a lot of extra hours, we're still pretty close to where we should be. Actually, I think we're below, so we're hanging in.
Excellent.
Anybody have any questions on my report?
All right, Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, Chief, I noticed a drop in the foot patrol hours in November. Was that due to training, or what would have caused that drop to take place?
It could be that we're down one person on one shift for sure, so obviously staffing issues contribute to that. It could be, looking back, it could have been a weather thing, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say, but at 110 hours for a month is pretty acceptable in my regards. I think they're doing quite well, so we try to have them out there as much as possible. We know how much the town appreciates it and the public appreciates it, so it is definitely higher on our list, and yeah, when I see those types of hours, I'm pretty pleased, so, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Marty.
Hi.
So I'm just wondering, as the weather gets better through Miners Marsh and places like that, I know at one point some of the force was out doing cycling, in some of those areas. Is that something that will be brought back?
Are members doing cycling?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's one thing that we like to do. The tough part about it is it needs to be done more in the spring
Right.
than the summer, because summertime's usually prime time for vacation. So
Yes, exactly.
we only have 2 people working. If you take one of those persons off, put them on a bike,
Okay.
it's not a good situation if something should
Okay.
happen.
Okay.
But yes, absolutely. It's something that we've invested a fair bit of money in, so yeah, we want to continue to do it for sure.
Yeah, I had thought that.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I've noticed is, to Councillor Maxwell's point, is the patrol piece. And I find I see more of it now. I always see, the vehicles driving around. I see folks walking around, the officers walking around, sort of that core area. And it really does give us a level of comfort, and it's nice to see. I think we're really fortunate in town of Kemptville to have our own force, and so.
Thank you.
I just wanna
Appreciate
say
it.
Thank you for that. So.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Councillor York.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. I'm embarrassed to ask because I ought to know. What the acronyms in your training, the IARD, R2MR, PROS, what are those again?
Okay, sorry. IARD, Immediate Action Rapid Deployment.
Right,
Okay, so that's a training we would do at the school.
right.
Okay. R2MR, Road to Mental Readiness. Okay. What's the other one? I'll be honest, I'm not
PROS.
sure. PROS is our RMS system, so it's what all of our records are kept on. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you what PRO stands for right now. I'm sure
So I'm not alone.
someone will message me to say, I can't believe you didn't know that, so. Actually, Ashley's on the course this week. She'll tell us when she comes back, so,
Thank you.
thank you,
Police records operating system.
probably.
All right, Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your worship, I'll call the director of many hats again, Dave Bell, and Engineering and Public Works.
Thank you, CAO. Good evening again. My report for the month of December is very brief this month, and I'll skip through the highlights, I guess. They're all highlights. Under the Water Commission, as typically happens, as colder weather sets in, the Water Commission and Public Works crews were quite busy in December, including during Boxing Week, repairing water main and water service breaks. Unfortunately, they didn't get much of a break over that holiday week. Sanitary sewer area service, there were no direct operational issues with our sanitary sewer service, although the county continues to have some issues with the force main that runs through the Harvest Moon Trail from Kentville to New Minas. Public Works, as what has become the trend in recent years, we saw very little snow in December. It is certainly too early to predict any savings to the snow and ice control portion of the operating budget, because if recent trends follow, we have been seeing increased storms in the second half of the winter toward the end of the fiscal year, but hopefully that's not the case either. Projects, I mentioned this at our last CAC, but McDonald Henry and Braeside project is now complete as of mid-December. The paving was completed, and that is the base lift to finish off this year's capital project on that large multi-discipline project. There was water capital, sewer capital, and town infrastructure capital upgrades on that street that's been going on now for 2 construction seasons. So the intention, as Director Matthews mentioned, is to do the top lift. We've deferred that until warmer weather. The top lift should be paved when the temperature is above 20 degrees. So we would do that in the summer or early fall of '24 under next fiscal year's capital investment program. And the last thing to touch on is budgets, as we're in preparation now for our upcoming budget meetings. So engineering and public works staff have begun updating and prioritizing our 5-year capital investment project list, and I'll be meeting again this week with my public works crews and foremen to help finalize those lists of projects to do in the next few years. And that is my brief report for the month of December.
All right, thank you very much, Director. We've got a couple questions for you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Bell, the budget piece that you talk about that's upcoming, I know that the asset management plan is something that's a work in progress and it's ongoing. But I'm assuming that that's going to be a consideration that's going to marry up with moving forward with what the capital plan will look like for the next 5 years.
It certainly is instrumental in us doing our 5-year plan. We're really just getting used to using it, not even nearly to its full potential, but to at least assist us with planning the 5-year plan. You know, the report or the whole package that the AIM network helped us compile, and Kirsten sort of manages that through the GIS portion and our other working papers, that sort of a living document that helps track our age of our infrastructure and our consequence of failure and frequency and those sorts of things help us determine what areas of town or what water lines or what sewer mains are giving us the most issue to look at putting in that top sort of that top 5-year plan.
Okay,
Yes.
if I might. So with respect to the lands in behind Condon, I know that you had said that there was somewhat of a report that was done, and that there was a request for proposal going, I'm trying to recall, I know it's back in December,
Yeah, it is.
November, December,
Right.
and I'm trying to recall exactly what it was, where that sort of stands right now.
So the part that I presented at December CAC was sort of was the highlight of a fairly small letter report from the consultant that indicated the recommendations, including, you know, upgrading the discharge pipe from Park Street to the we'll call it the trail ditch or the old DAR ditch to take the load off the storm sewer that runs down Park Street, the old infrastructure there, upsizing and basically making a new dedicated line. That would be probably their first recommendation, but work needs to be done. They feel both upstream in the forms of check dams and to help with some of that erosion, but certainly incorporate stormwater management areas into the design of the Donald E. Hiltz Road when that is being, you know, those proposals are out now for engineering services, I guess, to complete the design of the Hiltz Road and incorporate that design for many of the runoff areas that run along the sort of the steep slopes. That's the Condon area is just one of many areas that flow to essentially to Park Street and ultimately to the river. So all those areas will see benefits from the construction of the Hiltz Road and the adjoining stormwater management areas that will be built in that. So, yeah, multiple things in that letter report that we will integrate, certainly some of them into this year's capital budget for your approvals, and other things that will be more involved in the multi-year upgrades to the Hilt, or construction of the Hiltz Road.
And I'm assuming the archaeological dig is completed.
Yeah, it wasn't a dig, it's a non-invasive study, so it was
Study, sorry.
It's a 95% really was an office study, historical and research data. They did basically a 1 or 2 day, really only a 1 day site visit from end to end. That just tidied up their commitment to do, that's what's involved in an archaeological research assessment is really what that is,
Okay.
rather than a dig.
Okay, thank you
Yep.
for correcting me.
You're welcome.
Okay. That's all I need.
Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Dave. Question about not Center Square, but the sidewalks around Town Square. Are they on the docket for this coming spring?
They are. So we tendered, certainly felt that it was early enough, but it was an early summer tender for what we are calling Phase 1 of the downtown square, which was the inner loop of Cornwallis, Webster, and Aberdeen Street around that part of the square. I call the inner loop. I think follow what I mean. Main Street's already been upgraded in the last 15 years, so it's sort of the lower priority. We wouldn't take that out until other poorer condition sidewalks and curbs were replaced. So that was tendered, awarded, along with the section over in front of Main Street Station. And that's as far as they got prior to time they got mobilized. It was, even though it was awarded early, it was October, and by the time they were doing that curb and sidewalk, it was the end of October, and the best time of year to finish, really, be pouring sidewalk. So that contract's awarded, so it'll be sort of an automatic carryover to the 24-5 fiscal budget for capital. My recommendation would be to this spring tender the outer loop. We do have enough years left in this multi-year green infrastructure fund that much of it, over $2 million of it, was intended for the downtown sidewalk replacement on both sides of one side of Cornwall, or on Bridge Street, sorry, Webster Street, and both sides of Aberdeen around the square. So I would like to see that tendered this spring, so we could actually do that. Even though it's a big disturbance, do it all in one fiscal year.
And that's a full replacement, not just a...
That's new curb as well, upgrading catch basins that are also, aging and made of substandard materials. So it's multi things, not just the surface work. It's a big project, but it'll have to be done.
Now, will that start, will that be the first thing we work on as opposed to, the only reason I ask is, and I've said it before, and I'm sure others have said it before, when we started digging up fairly new concrete, that there was nothing wrong with to do the bike lane or the AT trail or whatever you want to call it. So I'd like to make sure that that's going to be first thing on the docket when,
That's awarded already, so they will be mobilizing
Yeah.
as early as the spring as possible. The part that was awarded in '23.
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Counselor Huntley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dave, I don't have a question, but I got a note today, and we all did get a note, and I wanted to thank you for the removal of the concrete barrier that's between Webster and Station Lane that was taken out. It wasn't safe, and I'm glad you're going to look at it for the spring for something else.
There'll be a different solution
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
going
Yeah,
forward.
thank you
Yeah.
for that.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Counselor Maxwell.
Oh, thank you. Just a couple of questions. When we're doing the inner loop there with the sidewalk, are we going to put in the rolling curbs for accessibility rather than keeping the, I don't know, 1 or 2 inch curb that's there?
I think I know what you're asking,
It's
Counselor.
very, very low.
No, I guess the answer is it will be accessible. There will only be spots where you can access. It won't be accessible everywhere. There may be some benefits accessibility-wise, but there also are some negatives from water management and how do I say, everything from snow removal to stormwater management. Curb and gutter is still the preferred method to channel water to the catch basins. Rolled curb or low-back curb that you see it in a lot of subdivisions, less so here in Kentville, see it somewhat in Wolfville. We tried it on Mill Run. It's the only place in town that has a few names, low-back curb, rolled curb. It's essentially like a driveway curb everywhere. And personally, we wouldn't do it again in any subdivision. The water ends up on property that is meant to go in catch basins, doesn't end up where it's meant to go, and has also becomes an issue from a snow removal perspective, especially where you're not so much, say, in the downtown, but when you have a subdivision with lawns that are right up to the curb, we end up damaging those lawns every winter in a subdivision like Mill Run, Chester Ridge, that is, where homeowners, we even put our own up to help mark the end of the curb for snowplow operators. But there's nothing, in my opinion, that's as good as a high back curb. Certainly the places where we will have, driveways and pedestrian ramps near crosswalks or, mid-block to make sure that the sidewalk is more accessible and a better slope. That is certainly part of the design, but it won't be low back or rolled curb everywhere. No.
Okay.
Doesn't really work. If you did that too, you would end up with more grade on the sidewalk because we still have to. We're going to try to get the sidewalk perhaps even a little higher at some of the building thresholds, we'll say, to try to help those businesses comply with upcoming accessibility requirements to make their building, because most of the businesses along the downtown corridor have a step up, to their main level, which makes, we can't certainly build a sidewalk to that level because it would end up being, a foot above the street. But if we add low or rolled curb, low back curb, it would make the sidewalk all the lower and all the more challenged to get into downtown businesses. So it'll be at least as high as it is now, but where there are, like as I mentioned, where there are pedestrian ramps and driveways, they'll have good care to make sure that they're better for rolling wheelchairs or shouldn't be bicyclists on that part of the sidewalk anyway, but anybody that has mobility issues or the need for a wheelchair should have better use of the sidewalk than they currently do, for sure.
Yeah, I just was thinking about people with, that are using transport chairs or wheelchairs in our, even if it was just in an accessibility spot, a disability spot. that
Parking
get-
spot, you mean, or-
Parking spot,
yes.
getting out of that spot, you're getting them out into traffic, and then you have to walk with the traffic to get to the crosswalk. Is not a very functional
Yep.
way to do it, so that's why I was wondering about that.
Some difficulties occur too in where we have, the one-way loop, and you're oftentimes parking on what would be the opposite side of the road that you normally would park on. You'd have your driver's door next to the curb rather than the passenger's door. And there's certainly ways to improve things, and we want to have anywhere where there's an accessible parking stall, we're going to have space behind it, and typically a pedestrian ramp behind that vehicle, so they can, if they have to get a chair or something of that type of device out of the vehicle and then get up onto the sidewalk, we'd have the ramp as close as possible to the accessible stall.
Yeah, okay. And my other question, potholes are starting to develop.
They are.
I've hit a few. I'm wondering, should citizens let your office know if they're hitting some, where they are, and so on?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt to let us know. We keep a pretty good tally on them, and the guys, we put down several pallets already, I guess, of a coal patch material, which is the only alternative this time of year. But this is when we start to see that delamination or popping of the pavement with the frost in and out, like Nova Scotia has. So yeah, we try to get the worst of them that are in the travel way, and we'll be doing some more. We try to do it when the weather's a little bit above, but by the looks of things, we're going to be having more of those days in the coming week. So
Yeah, okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions for the director? All right, thank you very much.
thank you. Good evening.
All right, CAO, I will hand the mic over to you for your report, please.
Your worship, through you to members of council, I've only been here for a week, precisely 3 days and 1/2 day today, I guess. So just to let you know, in terms of the administration and operations, I just met with all of our senior staff. Council, you're very blessed to have a top-notch group of department heads, and it was my pleasure to work with all of them. Hearing from all of them, it made my work a lot easier. They're a very good staff, so the only thing I can do is try and help them with the immediate resource requirements, and we've had conversations on that. Director Bell didn't mention to you, but he has got himself some assistance right now, an administrative assistance that'll help him with some of the calls that are coming in, because he's quite overwhelmed. He's got a lot on his plate, but he's also got a engineering technologist position that could be filled reasonably soon. He's got some candidates for that. So the only thing I can do is try and assist staff with their resource requirements, and I've been talking to all of them about that. We were looking at some business planning tools and how we can make their presentations to council and to the, for themselves a little better. And they're busy with capital budget, as Director Matthews indicated earlier. So they're working on the capital budget right now, and they'll get into operating budget in short order. Discussions with staff and the mayor. I had to identify the need for a robust planning department, and Councillors York and Deputy Mayor Savage have alluded to it earlier. It's an area of that we need to ramp up very quickly. I cannot. I won't make any recommendations today, but CAO Lawrence is here today, and he and I will have a conversation on what that is. But my suggestion to you is that just looking at your regime, your planning regime, and the development that's going to be coming on stream, this town is going to boom, and you'll need a robust planning department. And what that looks like, I will leave up to CEO Jeffrey to work with Dave and council and staff for that. The other thing I did want to note is that I know there's the issue of policies and practices have come up with council a few times, and so staff, with all the things in their plate, they're juggling those priorities, and it's not that they've forgotten you, council. It's something that they are working at. In terms of council related, it's been my practice wherever I've worked to file weekly reports with council. It just keeps you informed, and sometimes it might be something that's happening that you only get a monthly report from me, and it might be something that's current. We just came off Christmas holidays, so there was nothing hugely important to report to you, but I gave you an update just on a weekly, and I'll continue to do that until I leave. And in terms of correspondence, we have talked at staff on how we can improve our customer service to the community, and we'll be coming back with some recommendations on how we streamline correspondence and how we bring things, what we bring to council and what we deal with immediately. Sometimes I think people are writing to you about a pothole. If it, for it to wait until it gets to council is way too long. So we'll be streamlining some of those things and dealing with what's operational and handling those. That'll be the CAO and his staff. And the matters that should come to you, we'll definitely bring here. So that'll be the strategic, policy-driven matters. But there will be a repository somewhere where council can go and look at all the correspondence that's come in if you wish. And we'll talk about how we make that effective for you as a tool. And that's about all I can report right now. And I turn to council for any questions on either my weekly report or this submission today.
All right, thank you very much, CAO. Are there any questions for the CAO? You got off easy.
Yeah, well, I might not get it off easy in the next one.
Okay.
Because I have a very able and capable person who looks after housing and community partnerships, and that's Alicia. She can't be here today, so I'll just read out her report. And also, Your Worship, you touched on a letter that we received. I don't know if you want me to address it here.
That would be preferable, just keep everything together.
Keep everything
that works
together.
For you.
Alicia has been working on this housing for the homeless project. The Pallet Project, I think, is how council all knows it. She's had meetings with Katy University partners, and she's had some placement. She's working on placement issues. Staff has committed to hosting Acadia University's community development first-year students for a one-day community learning experience in February. And they continue to collaborate with local not-for-profits to identify opportunities to support the community's response to homelessness. Staff joined the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation's Atlantic Housing Solutions Community of Practice Working Group. So those are a lot of the things that she's been working on it. In terms of council, a website page on the provincial secondary and backyard suite incentive program with details on permitted unit structures that can be approved in Kentville is now live on the Town of Kentville website. Our staff will circulate the link to the mayor and council members, as well as share it on the Town of Kentville's social platform. I don't know if it has been done already, but if it hasn't, I know that that's her intention. So let me just jump to the Pallet program, if you don't mind. Worship. We've received correspondence from Minister Laura, and Minister Laura has indicated that the pallet shelters, that I guess we had a preference for a location somewhere in our town. But he's indicated that between community services, who've had conversations with our previous CAO, interim CAO, they've indicated that the pallet shelter will be within this vicinity of Kentville, but not in Kentville town proper. There'll be more details on that. I think the minister had probably taken into consideration some of the feedback that has been generated in the community regarding the pallet shelters. But I know that Alicia did quite a bit of work on it, and the Department of Community Services has asked if she would continue to work with them on a committee, and I, on behalf of everybody, agreed, because it's a function that is really important, and it might not be in Kentville, but it is in our vicinity. It could have gone anywhere, and it's important that that her participation there is to represent our community and the homeless people in Kentville are properly represented. That's all I wanted to say on that, Your Worship, other than I was reading through some of the correspondence, and there was some inference to the flood of people, homeless people moving into Kentville. I just wanted to assure you, Council, this is a common thing. Halifax has the same thing. Everybody from one end of the province to the other is moving to Halifax, so it increases their homelessness issues. In the previous town where I worked, the town of Windsor, it was the same thing. It's all the neighboring, it is a function of an urban community. They know that's where the jobs are. So these are our homeless people, whether we, I would, to characterize them as homeless people from somewhere else, they are our homeless people. So Alicia is doing good work, and I just wanted to say that finding a place is difficult, but I know you've got people who don't want it in their backyards. But at the end of the day, these are our homeless people, and we have to find solutions for them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, CAO, and we do have some questions here. Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, CAO. I've got two questions, and they might seem, I guess, hypocritical might not be the word on each other, but has Ashley relayed some of the concerns, and I mean legitimate concerns, not the NIMBY, about, support and resources that are needed with the pallet project? Has she relayed those to the province? And my second question is, since we have a housing and community partners position, and since housing is a provincial mandate, not a municipal, are there gray areas? Are there, like, my concern is that taxpayers are gonna pay for something that is the province's responsibility, and it will end up continuing to be a Kentville issue, and the province will just step away and say, if they're gonna take care of it, they can pay for it.
Your Worship, through you to Councillor Gerard, I can't answer all of your questions, but what I can say to you is that on November 8th, the mayor just pointed out to me that we had written to the province with our concerns. So they have that. I can get the details if you wish and get back to you on what it is we identified, and if there's anything additional, we'd be happy to pass it on to the province. What I can say is that as far as I understand, this is a provincial program. They're funding it. They're putting it where they feel is
Yes.
best.
Yep.
And so, from our perspective, it's appropriate for us to provide whatever support we can, and I think Alicia is providing that kind of, when I say support, if, if we've got a homeless issue, we need to have somebody on our side, at least at the table to say, hey, you're saying this, but this is an issue, so, Your Worship, I can reiterate, the concerns that this council is raising with community services, if that's helpful. But I know for some certainty that it is a provincial concern, and they are trying to fund it.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the chair to the CEO. With regards to the work that Alicia's doing with the CMHC and being on this committee, what does that really entail? Like, she has a seat at the table, she's talking to them about the funding piece and how that works and how people can access that, i.e. developers and those sorts of things. Is that kind of what that's covering off?
Your Worship,
Thank you.
through you to Deputy Mayor, as an example, I know she's, she liaises quite closely. Is it Open Arms? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
There's an organization called Open Arms, and they've been they've been helping the homeless directly with funding and whatnot. And but what they can't do is find homes for them.
Sure.
But they can support them in many ways. And Open Arms is located here in Kentville. So Alicia's work is really, with some of the supporting agencies, and it's all good work. Right now, in terms of exactly what this all entails, I know it's a new thing in the province, and if we can be a model in this region of how it should work, then I think all ideas are good ideas.
Absolutely.
And if council has some ideas and thoughts, please share it with Alicia
Okay.
or the CAO, and I'm sure they'll that'll be conveyed. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
CEO, if I can just add to that, part of Alicia's job with the CMHC is, I'm not going to call it fast-tracking the grant applications
Okay.
for citizens who are looking at building, but between her and Kirsten, they know exactly what CMHC will fund.
Okay.
So anybody who is looking to put a suite in their backyard, speaking to our staff, will know exactly what they will be eligible for through CMHC, and then Alicia makes the phone call and says, you've got this coming.
Okay.
And, so it's not, we're streamlining the process, I guess. So taking away the red tape for our citizens,
Very
that
helpful.
they have the best possible service. Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. Just a question concerning the pallet program. You said it's in the vicinity of Kentville, but not within Kentville proper. That would mean that it would be in the County of Kings. And we were selected because we had the services, but we're kind of passing the buck onto the County of Kings. Therefore, we won't have any direct responsibility with this project other than Alicia helping out. Is that correct?
Your Worship, through you to Councillor Maxwell, I can't answer that because I don't know what this program actually looks like, what it feels like, but I think our participation is always helpful in these things. So I can commit to try and get back to council with some information, but I'd be making something up if I agreed with you.
But, well, you don't have to agree with me. That's just the way I see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor York.
Thank you. It's not a question, more a comment, but I think we have to be mindful of our language and be intentional to recognize that though people in our community may be unhoused, they still are Kentville citizens. And while I do respect and appreciate that housing is a provincial mandate, we do have to, and we are obliged to take care of our citizens and make sure that we are doing the best we can for all of our citizens rather, housed, unhoused. So I just want to be mindful of that and mindful of our language moving forward as we have these conversations.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for the CAO with regards to his report or the report that he sent you on Thursday? All right, no further questions for the CAO. So staff reports have been presented and are now part of the record of this meeting. So staff, thank you very much for your reports and your attendance this evening. It was greatly appreciated. We're moving into the remainder of our meeting, unfinished business. We're at the 2-hour mark, so I would entertain a pause, a biological pause, if so needed, and top up your water. So it is 8 o'clock. If we could reconvene at 10 after 8, please. Thank you. We'll reconvene. All right, and so moving on to our unfinished business. The first item we have is legal reporting best practices. CAO, we have been provided with an interim report as requested. The report was requested by council in December for CAC in February, giving the new CAO an opportunity to weigh in on the matter. So CAO, if you'd like to take council through the details. Floor is
Your
yours.
worship, through you to council, I read of what you asked, and I know that we said we'll report in February. This is an interim report to council. It doesn't probably specifically answer your questions regarding the legal expenses, so I thought maybe what I would do is ask you for a little more direction in terms of how you'd like to see the report when it comes to you in February. So, as an example, as the legal expenses are identified in so many different parts of the organization and parts of the budget. And I thought, if we're going to report something to you, it should be in the context of, we can't name people, we can't name, you don't want to open yourself up unnecessarily to litigation of any additional, more litigation, more legal fees. But I thought if some broad categories and would be a good way to report it to you. So for example, anything that's around legislative, just legislative things, and it could be, things related to the Municipal Government Act or whatever. If we have to retain counsel for that, that could be one category. Legal counsel, everything that the CAO does on a daily basis and what senior staff work on is risk management. We're always, that's the job that we do, and that's the job counsels. We're always managing risk, and sometimes we need legal counsel. We'll seek it. So there could be like legislative legal counsel. Labor relations is a special field in itself. Again, that's why these things go in camera, because you don't discuss this. So we deal again. Those are areas where. So it could be a category: labor relations, human resources. There are HR issues always in an organization. Again, without identifying, specifics. It's like, here's your human resources, what we paid for legal services. Here's legal, here's for labor, and so on. Litigation. There's all kinds of litigation taking place, whether it's through UARB hearings or whatever. There could be a report, just simply saying here without again mentioning the specifics. And then finally, FOIPOP. The FOIPOP, there's so many requests coming in through FOIPOP that some of it is, we have to seek counsel because there's only so much you can divulge without putting people's names or putting the real issue out there, and then open yourself up to more litigation. So we have to be careful about the FOIPOP requests, and there's a lot. And I can speak to, this is what FOIPOP requests are costing you. And some of it is generated through discussions and others through information that they're getting. I don't know where they're getting the information from. But there's those things cost you every time it's out there. So if you could give me a little more direction in terms of what you'd like to see and how you'd like to see the legal services report come back to you on, I'll have to kick that football over to my to incoming CAO Lawrence to ensure that the transparency you're requesting is there. Okay.
All right, thank you very much, CAO. So council, did you wish to open the floor to provide the CAO with some more information, or did you want to send him an email? And Councillor Gerard, first up.
I have a question. You're someone who's had lots of experience in this realm, not legal, but in CAO and councils. Is there a norm? Is there a standard? You can go very deep down the rabbit hole on things like this to no end, but for what benefit?
Your worship, through you to Councillor Gerard, very good question, because, you know, it's unusual. I'll put it that way, but it seems that if there is a desire for council to see that, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, our job as staff is to be transparent with you and with, you know, with the public, but not to the extent that we put our, you know, our council or the organization in jeopardy. So those, you know, until you have a level of confidence that what, you know, that these expenses are, you know, they're not frivolous, but they are as a result of things coming out of council that we are obliged to spend money on.
Thank you.
Councillor Maxwell.
Oh, thank you. Through the chair, please, to CAO. I think we have had an unusual term as far as legal goes. And I think it is becoming an increasing question mark with the public and council that this information be available without naming names and things like that. I think you were looking for some categories. I'm just thinking a separate heading like you would have for recreation, only you would have it for legal. And you might have under that FOIPOP, so much cost, litigation, insurance coverage, town money. And then the departments would be your legislative totals. Like we don't need to give it in each department, or we could break it down to each department, but that's kind of where I was thinking that would give a better picture to the public and perhaps to council where the spending is. I don't know that we need any more than that, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, just from you know, the past years in this term, that it has been unusual. And so I think that we do have a responsibility to be a bit more forthcoming with what our spends are. And so those are some of the categories that I was thinking of.
So, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Maxwell, just to, you know, I can do it by department. The only thing is that just because a department has a high legal, you know, bill, doesn't mean that it's a bad thing.
No.
As an example, you know, you know, in the whole development, planning and development department, we're always consulting, and so, but it's a good thing, you know. It's we're just protecting the town's interests in our discussions and so on. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I can break it down if that's what council wishes, that we bring a report back to you by department. We can do that. I was just saying that, you know, because I don't know the reason or specific reason you were looking for a report, but if I know, then I can come back and say, so I gave you some categories that I thought, and if you want it by department, happy to do so, provided by department. I'm not too sure what it will tell you, other than this one department has generated a lot. So presumably the CAO's office will generate a lot of requests because, again, I mentioned to you about risk management, and there's issues coming out, and there's issues going out into social media and whatnot, and there's all of those issues to address. So, yeah.
I think those categories that I said, FOIPOP is costing us this much. Litigation, and we could break the litigation down to what's covered by our insurance, what's covered by tax dollars, you know, citizens' tax dollars. But we don't need to name names or anything like that. And the departments could be there. I'm sure that citizens understand that there would be legal in most departments. Recreation, for example, would have liabilities at maybe sometimes or whatever. So, you know, we could do it that way. I'm just thinking that something like that would be, might answer the questions that the public has.
Okay. Well, Your Worship, I'll look to council to give me that direction, and
All
I'm
right.
hearing by department so far, so.
Okay, thank you. Without putting words in Councillor Maxwell's mouth, I think what we're looking for is a schedule of legal expenses. So rather than having a line of legal in each one of the departments, and we realize that from an accounting perspective, that it needs to be accounted by department. However, if we had a schedule of legal, and if it was broken down by the headings that you've provided, and then if it can be subtotaled by department, then, you know, perhaps that gives the amount of information if I haven't misstated what you said, Councillor Maxwell.
I think as long as we have the litigation and the FOIPOPs there, I think that those are two important areas.
Okay, Your Worship, so as we have our own in-house legal counsel here, I might rely on him also for what would probably be a good way to represent council's wishes.
All right. CAO, did you wish us to go through the motion of directing you to provide further information?
No, I
Or
think
is the December?
Your direction to us to come back with a report on legal services was a little vague, because when I say vague, yeah, I know you intended what we just discussed, but I needed to know that we're providing you what you need.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank you, CAO. All right, moving right along, our correspondence, the correspondence that was put on the agenda at the end of today is or was the letter from DMHA with regards to the pallet. And that was from the Honorable John Lohr, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And it was just letting us know that the pallet shelter has been moved from the proposed location as discussed by the CAO. So moving on to our new business. Our first order of new business is with regards to first reading of the proposed MPS amendments. So staff is recommending approval of the proposed amendments, and these amendments were previously presented to council by C&D Community Design Planning Services and are in response to the mandatory changes requested by the province. So you'll recall that we had the presentation, we had some updates that we wanted made. It came back from our planning department in November month, and now it's here before us so that we can put it for first reading. So the motion is that CAC recommend approval of first reading to council at the January 29th, 2024 meeting of council, and further schedule a public hearing prior to second reading on February 26th. If someone could move that, please. Councillor Huntley, thank you. Councillor York, thank you for the second? So it has been moved and seconded that CAC recommend approval of first reading to council at the January 29th, 2024 meeting of council, and further schedule a public hearing prior to second reading on February 26th. Is there any discussion on this matter? There being no discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is that CAC recommends approval of first reading to council at the January 29th, 2024 meeting of council, and further schedule a public hearing prior to second reading on February 26th. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. The second matter we have is with recommendation from staff to approve a climate community capacity grant application. And this grant provides the town with funding for a dedicated climate change member of staff for a 3-year period. CAO, did you want to add anything else to that information before we move to motion?
No, Your Worship, it's not a cost to the town. I mean, we may decide after 3 years that it's in our interest to keep somebody retained, but as I understand it, and Deputy Clerk can correct me, as I understand it, it is a completely funded position.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So the motion is that CAC recommend approval of the Climate Community Capacity Grant application to council at the January 29th, 2024 meeting of council. Someone? Deputy Mayor, thank you. And for the second? Councillor York, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that CAC recommend approval of the Climate Community Capacity Grant application to council at the January 29th, 2024 meeting of council. Is there any discussion on this matter? Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a question. It comes under the number 1 piece about the community energy planning. And I see it says in 2026, the town will be poised to complete deep energy retrofits to the town hall building. What I'm wondering, is there a way to take it a step further? Because there's a lot of local businesses that are not accessible right now. And I know the cost to them is going to be deep. So I'm wondering if there's a way that we can, I don't know, find a way to help the businesses to get them rolling. Maybe it's not all like the push button doors and everybody has everything, but if they have nothing and we can get them 3 things, like how do we get that started? And the part B on that is, do we include KBC in on that planning? So anyway, just a thought.
Did you want to respond to that?
I believe in March of 2023, the Accessibility Committee did present some memos to council, and one of them was exactly that issue, was how can the town help to facilitate incentives to businesses to become more accessible. So that hasn't been completed by staff yet. Obviously, we've been very busy, but it is on our list, and we are going to get to that to bring it back to council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Worship, if I could just add to what the Deputy Clerk just mentioned to you. I know the requirement is of all government buildings. Right now, that's the requirement. It's not requiring, it's not requiring businesses to get there yet. However, it is incumbent on us to have our, say, when people come to apply for a renovation, at that stage, we're required to say your building has to be accessible. So, if it's not already in our planning documents, that is something we should put in our planning documents. So anytime there's any kind of, if it's sold to a new owner, then, it might be that it becomes, and I don't know how that's going to work. We'll work with legal counsel again on how we develop it. But as I understand it, you can create the regime, and as a council, you want to create a policy that says, the businesses in our community will be accessible, and anytime there's any kind of renovations done, any kind of thing, it's just a way to get people, giving them time to do it, as opposed to government, they're saying, no, you have to do it by such and such a date. So I just wanted to add that perspective, and that it is policy-driven on our end, and we'll work on that.
Thank you, CAO. And just for clarification, this is with regards to climate change and not so much accessibility. So this would take I'm going to say some of the work off the corner of our deputy clerk's desk with regards to the work that's already been done. Certainly.
Councillor Huntley, I'm glad you brought up that point. It was a year 3 goal in this grant. And obviously, that's dependent on council's decisions about the building, which comes up later in the report. So I just wanted to clarify that that's dependent on council's direction.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gerard.
And I know this is about climate change, but since it was brought up about accessibility and grants and stuff, because Kentville has a lot of older buildings, is there any thought given to architectural design? Because anybody can slap a ramp on the side of a building, but it's another thing to go, this is a 100-year-old building, this is a 60-year-old building, they're attractive. How do we do it in a way that keeps the building and the downtown aesthetically pleasing and attractive?
I think that work has been done. Do you remember the architect that was hired to look at the Culkin building after we first received it? One of the things that he did, and this would have been back 2018 timeframe, one of the things that he did is that he looked at the town of Kentville and the fact that most of our steps into most stores are the same. And he, in his design of the Culkin building, had designed some kind of ramp assembly that could be used for any, modified sort of for any doorway in the town of Kentville. So I think that work should be somewhere rolled up in a roll with.
And I think it should be readily available to staff. So when the owners or the business people or whatever come into town hall to say, I want to do these renovations, we've got this, not cookie cutter plan, but we've got this accessibility avenue that you don't have to reinvent the wheel on.
I'm going to say that we have a member of staff who, she can probably go to her computer and get this information for us. Kirsten would have put it, onto the computer at the time. So I'm sure we have it from that Culkin building work that was done by the architect from Annapolis Royal. Harry was his first name, but I don't remember his second name. Jost. There it is. Jost.
Thank you.
All right. Councillor York.
Thank you. It might also be an opportunity for the Heritage Committee and the Accessibility Committee and KBC to work together. I appreciate aesthetics is nice. Accessibility, in my opinion, is probably more important. It's more important, but there's probably a way to harmonize both of those needs. And I think probably a subcommittee from a couple of different committees might do the trick, but it's probably worth the Heritage Committee at least having access to some of that information and working in conjunction with KBC and Kirsten here in Town Hall.
I'm seeing the CAO writing notes, so.
Yeah, Your Worship, good discussion. A lot of we're slightly off topic, but it's really good discussion on that. And what I can suggest to council is that all of those things, after we've consulted with the heritage groups and some of the other groups, this is what I mean by a policy document. This is where council, you either amend, your bylaws or anything, so that planning actually has a bunch of tools that they can use without worrying that somebody's going to complain that they're being made to renovate their entrances after they bought a new building. But if you don't have the policy structure in place, then it becomes a fight. If it's there, it says when you renovate an old building, a heritage building, you will consult with a heritage group or whatever to ensure that the design is. I don't know. I'm now just putting words. I'm just saying that this is where you guys have paid the big bucks to come up with policy, and we'll help you develop that.
All right. Thank you, CAO. So is there any further discussion on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is that CAC recommends approval of the Climate Community Capacity Grant application to Council at the January 29, 2024 meeting of Council. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Our next matter is the Town Hall Building Accessibility Audit Report. We had a preliminary report, and CAO, the report has been provided on the Town Hall building. Could you please brief council on the outcomes and the recommendations as you see fit?
Your worship, through you to members of council, the staff report has identified 3-4 options for your consideration. At this stage, I won't read through the report, but the first option is to stay in the building, but gut out the whole thing and rebuild it to to be efficient and accessible. It is of the, I guess the relevant cost is the least cost from what we can determine so far. I mean, once we get into that exercise, that's one option. The second option is to buy a building and renovate it to fit our needs. The third option is constructing a new building in a new location. And I think there was a fourth option. Maybe that's it. That's 3 options.
No, there is a fourth.
There is a
Tear it
fourth.
down. Yep.
Oh, yes,
There you
yes.
go.
Tearing it down and building it again in the current location. And at each one of these, staff has identified, it could be the inconvenience to either the public in accessing the facility or inconvenience to staff. So it is various degrees, and it just identifies where you want to go. Now, we haven't done in-depth work on each one of those options, but we'd certainly, take direction from council on, is there a particular option you'd like us to spend some time working on and coming back to you with detail? Or are you looking for further information other than the, very brief, broad recommendation that's brought to you? We'll take direction, Your Worship.
All right, thank you very much, CAO. Deputy Mayor, I see your hand, but I'm going to put something on the floor here for you, is for council to take this home as homework. And so we've been provided with 4 options. So your homework would be to review the 4 options. I'm going to say select the one that you would like to see. But in addition to that, what are your 5 to 10 non-negotiables for a town hall? So for example, does the town hall need to be in the center of town? Or could it be in the boonies? What if it was out at the Access Center? Or do you think it needs to be here? Do we need this council chamber, or could we share a council chamber with someone else? So what are your 5 to 10 non-negotiable features of a town hall? Again, which option you like or think would be good, and how you see this process proceeding for decision-making. So is this one of those times where we put together a committee of staff, council, and citizens to look at where we go? And so that would be your homework, to come back, and your homework would be due at February CAC, so that gives you about 30 days to look at these 4 pages and kind of put your ideas on paper. And then we have a discussion with staff, the CAO, at our CAC meeting, and I'm going to say, throw it over the hill and see what rolls out. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I don't have enough information. And I understand that you want us to go back and have a look at this and look to 5 to 10 non-negotiables and sort of incorporate staff and citizens and CAO and stuff. But like, for example, when I look at option 1 and I read stay in the building but gut the entire thing. So I don't know that the whole building has to be gutted. I'm not sure that the entire building isn't accessible. And when you look at the pros and cons and cost effective and less options to create and modify spaces. So like unless I had a really good idea of what the such costs would be, I mean, obviously, and I can't speak for anybody else, but I probably would lean more to option one. It potentially could be the lowest cost. But again, it's really, if it's more like a wish thing, then that's another exercise. But if it's more of getting really granular and figuring out what is the most cost-effective way to make it accessible, then I think those are two very different beasts.
And
Just my own thoughts.
I understood exactly what you're saying, and that's why that's not the exercise for us as council to be looking at that. From an accessibility perspective, think about our offices. Every doorway would need to be widened. Think about where our light switches are. They would have to come down to a proper level for a person in a wheelchair. Think about our elevator. Our elevator, where the switches aren't even in the right place for a person sitting in a wheelchair. So there's all these things, and accessibility is not just about mobility. When you think about people who have vision issues and that sort of thing. So I guess what I'm suggesting as far as the non-negotiables is things that you think are important in a building. And if you use this as your model, or use Wolfville's as a model, or use Kings County as a model, what are things that you think are important in whatever solution we do? And I don't think it'll actually be us, getting down to the solution, but it would be nice to give staff, I'm going to say, some mud on the wall to see where they start. Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. I totally agree with Deputy Mayor Savage. Having cost ranges for options 1, 2, 3, 4 would be nice. But the other thing is, we all come here and we spend 2 nights a month. Some of us spend more time, you spend more time. But I would like to see, while we're all creating our wish list, the needs from staff, right? What they like, not a pool in the basement and stuff like that, but you know what I mean? Like, what are absolute necessary? Do we need 30 offices? Do we need 10 offices? That's gonna help me make a decision on my wish list.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Zabian.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. I have the same questions, and I think my biggest one, when I looked at, I think 3 and 4, I forget which ones, when I read yesterday, I mean, if you tear a building down, where does everybody go for 2 years? I mean, that was my first question. And I didn't see any little footnote there of a an option there, so I don't know. I guess you can use my upstairs at Finney's when that's done, but, and the other thing is that report, are we able to see that report from October? Because I see here that it says they've listed the 3 most significant recommendations, and I mean, those obviously are issues that have to be targeted, but is there more that we should be looking at? I don't, that's not enough there to even make a decision whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4. Personally, myself, I don't like to go spend $7 or $8 million on a new building if we don't have to. So if we can work with what we have, I think we have a great building, and probably, I haven't been to all of them, we probably have one of the better ones in the province. I know we have I always hear that we have a beautiful chamber here. I hear that from everybody. So, yeah, if that report's available, it would probably be helpful to kind of look through that. Thank you.
CAO? Thank you.
Your worship, yes, we can make the report available to council.
Thank you.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. Yes, I think that we need a little bit more information. However, echoing what Councillor Zabian said, I think there are many, many other things that we need in town, or we need to contribute to, like a wellness center is one of them, that anything where we're tearing down and building back up or going to buy or anything like that, that's not something I would be very interested in. I was involved in a complete renovation at West Kings High School when I was teaching there, and they did gut a whole section of the school, well, 2 sections of the school actually. It was done in stages. And, you know, it's not overly comfortable, but the work got done, and it was beautiful when it was finished. And so, you know, it's very, very possible to gut a building and then go and build it back up and put things exactly where you want it. And like I said, it was, you know, we had, you know, lights dangling from the ceiling that were on a, you know, a little socket and things like that. But we had, you know, hundreds of students moving through the hallways that were completely gutted to be renovated. And it was doable, and we taught in the classrooms. So, I mean, work can carry on. And so it certainly is a viable option. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So CAO, it would seem that people require more information, so if we could have access to that report. And you're not getting off from not having homework, but I would still like you to consider what your non-negotiables are. As Councillor Maxwell said, if they could do it in a high school, you know, start ripping things out, that sort of thing. And as Councillor Zabian said, he likes the chamber. So is this a keeper? You know, it's just a matter of putting these things down on paper and then going from there. So that's your homework. And rather than having it ready for next CAC, why not just put it on our SharePoint drive, and that way we can all look at each other's homework, if that works.
Yeah, Your Worship, that includes the report. We can put the report on SharePoint.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, that'd be perfect. Thank you. All right, so the next thing that we have, I'm all out of order here. My original agenda was different than this agenda that I'm looking at right now. So I believe we're at the tennis facility request. So the tennis facility group has made a request to council for support of the facility. And based on the comments that came out while our presenters were still here, a motion that CAC direct the CAO to provide a full report on a potential location and the financial cost to the town of using that soccer field or using any facility at the March CAC meeting. Councillor York, I see you put your light on, so I'll go to you before I put a motion on the floor.
We had also spoken about the impact to the user groups and what that, and I believe it was Director Langell who was investigating that, but I would like to have
Right.
that information as well.
Impact to
Please.
user groups. Okay, so basically our motion would be to provide a full report, which would include location, cost, and impact. And that would be the broader impact to all groups, including, because we have to think about fire, access to the different fields, because as you know, where you come over that little bridge is how you get access to that middle ball field. So when we look at those things, so we'll use, if impact, keep it high level rather than just saying user groups. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. And I would like staff to take a really good, hard look at Oak Dean Park. I don't think that there would be the impact to user groups by taking one of those soccer fields at Oak Dean Park and using that. And certainly we would be able to preserve the track, and we would be able to preserve a soccer field that's used quite frequently for tournaments and so on, down in the main corridor and right behind the soccer facility. So I think that's something that we should give serious consideration to.
All right, thank you, Councillor. That won't go in the motion. However, the CAO did take notes, and and it'll go from there. So Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So you've heard from Councillor York and heard from Councillor Maxwell, and both have mentioned a number of things, but and this is just, I think it could be as simple as just directing the CAO to get a staff report back from Director Langell and making the notes that he clearly has made now, but that's,
Okay.
yeah. Because there's a lot of pieces with this. I don't think there's any doubt that all of us around this horseshoe support, what Richard was talking about, but it's, there's different components to work out. Thank you.
Okay. So CAO, I have, if we request a full report on, I still have to say location. I still have to say location, impact and financial cost to the town of the racquetball. Does that provide enough information to start a report?
Your worship, through you to council, yes, there'll be other questions. I know that the facility, they mentioned it was something, 7 point something. The only commitment I saw so far is $200,000 from Tennis Canada. So the question for me is, where's the rest of the 7 million coming from? And what's the commitment from the province and the feds? And then if they can't, if sometimes there's matching funds, the province may say, I'll give 2. Feds will say, I'll match it at 2. And then all of a sudden, you've got a delta of about 3 million. And so it's, is it then on the town to help them with that? I think council just needs to, we'll do a report and just identify, what I understand is the commitment they've asked from our council. So you can agree to we asked the question and they're looking at a 50-year lease and they're looking for sewer and water. I asked for clarity on that. So it'll be like, here's our contribution and we can give an estimate of what that sewer and water supply will be. And I'm assuming there's going to be land conveyance if you do go with that. So, but hence my question on what happens with the soccer field, because it is an asset you currently own, and it's, the community, you may not be using it now, but they might want to use it tomorrow. And so, can they build this facility to include, they might have due to additional land clearing, but not to take into consideration the asset you have there now. So we'll come back with all of those things. Okay. And, it might be that it goes from a 7 point something million to an $8 million project just to do the additional landscaping to put in a soccer field. I'm merely speculating, but I said we'll give you a full report.
Okay, thank you very much, CAO. So we'll put that to a motion, that CAC direct the CAO to provide a full report on the potential location, impact, and financial cost to the town of the racquetball facility at the March CAC meeting. If someone could move that. Thank you, Councillor Zabian. Councillor Maxwell, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that CAC direct the CAO to provide a full report on the potential location, impact, and financial costs to the town of the racquetball facility at the March CAC meeting. Is there any further discussion on this matter? CAO, I just want to add something from, I can't remember when we discussed it, but it was several years ago when we had the opportunity to buy a piece of land that belonged to Volare. And it was behind our skate park. And they were offering it to us. The problem with the land is that it was used by Gulf Oil, so it's dirty land, but this is a cement pad, so they wouldn't be going down, so there would be no issue with the fact that it's dirty land. And it would be right on West Main Street, and it would back on to basically the soccer dome, so it was the Volare land. And I want to say that would have been in the 2018 timeframe. CAO Phillips was still our CAO at that time. And we had been offered to buy that. And we were looking at it originally for the dog park, but that didn't really fit into the recreation plan. And then there was talk about perhaps a pump track as part of the skate park, but it was on our docket, so that may be a piece of land that we can still acquire for a decent price that doesn't ruin an asset that we already have. So if there's no further discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is that CAC direct the CAO to provide a full report on the potential location, impact, and financial cost to the town of the racquetball facility at the March CAC meeting. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much, and that completes our new business, although in the wrong order. I must apologize for that. Our public comments, members of the public are invited to speak to council on any agenda item. You will be provided with 3 minutes to speak, and please provide your name and address prior to speaking.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Marcia McNeil. I live on Acadia Drive, Kemptville. I've lived in Kemptville for over 30 years. I wrote to Mayor and Council the other day. I had heard that the Robinson court case was now postponed until March of 2025. And in light of the news, I was reaching out to each and every one of you to consider dropping this case. One of the reasons is you have spent over $100,000 on legal fees for this. And the big thing was you lost faith in the developer, or so that's what I've heard. So during COVID, when everything was going on, and you lost faith in the proposed developer, maybe you could see that. But since COVID, that same developer is now one of the only people that is building a big expansion on Webster Street. We haven't had a lot of development in Kemptville in the downtown core in many years. And I think that you're losing sight of the revenue that you would receive off of a $3.5 to $4 million building. I think enough is enough. I think that this year is time for council to come together and sit down and rethink this, because if this goes on until March of 2025, these big Halifax lawyers are the only ones that are benefiting. Nobody here is benefiting. And I certainly, as a taxpayer, am not benefiting, as well as the thousands of other taxpayers here in Kentville. I just wanted to say, too, that when I wrote to you people the other day, I had a couple small responses, and they were, thank you for your letter. That didn't answer my question. That didn't indicate that you might consider dropping this case. And I don't think that that's fair, that I take my time to write to you and suggest something that seems reasonable, and nobody can even respond that makes sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense that is your job, to respond to the people of this town. So once again, I am asking that you drop this silly, foolish case. I mean, we're talking about business owners that have been in business. The family has been in business for over 50 years. How can you lose faith when they have many other developments, many other buildings and things like that? You need to realize that that building is going to provide a lot of revenue for the town. And we need new businesses in town. We need the downtown core to look better, because right now, all it's doing is being a parking lot. So, you know, I hope you really think about this, and, you know, like I said, $100,000 in legal fees to some lawyer in Halifax. Just think of all the homeless people we could help, or the kids we could feed, or the potholes that we could fill in town. Those are the things that should be priority, and not this bickering over some lawsuit. So I ask you to reconsider, and I think that you all need to, you know, it's gonna show who's gonna stick up and who's not, because just sitting silent is not helping. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ron Cousins. I'm another citizen in the town here. And I agree with everything the last speaker just said. She said it all. If you're spending $100,000 on a lawyer, I think it's time you let it go, because, and then you're trying to develop land other places. When you got land down here right in Kempville, you can develop it. And the developer, I assume, wants to. So I'm just giving a second opinion on what she just said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Bennett, and I live on 12 Condon. I'd just like to make a remark about the racquetball facility, which I think would be a wonderful thing. But I know that if you were even considering West Main, man, that street, I wouldn't want to live on that right now with the school traffic, the parents. I know I have a brother lives on that street. They get a lot of people driving too quickly. There's school buses, there's public works vehicles, there's all kinds of traffic to the skate park, which is wonderful. These things are all great. But have you ever tried to get out of West Main Street? It is ridiculous. So, and then I think traffic coming from the 30-kilometer-an-hour traffic coming past KCA, it makes it difficult because you're trying to get out of West Main, and all of a sudden you've got this huge long line of traffic, right? So I just think, I know it seems like it would be a good spot in one way, but not so sure it would be in another. His idea of the fact that it would bring perhaps provincial and national tournaments to our area is wonderful, but I know from my involvement over many years with my boys in baseball and hockey, we used to be able to billet kids, teams. I don't think it's probably safe now that you can billet children anymore, right? But we used to do that. We used to get on the phone and we used to billet children. There's no place here now. There's no hotels. The Wanlin burned down. Allen's Motel, you know, is gone. So, I mean, it's fine to say, and I don't mean to kibosh his idea because I think it's wonderful, but I think we really need a hotel or motel or something in this area if we hope to be able to draw people into the town to tournaments and so on, right? But good luck to him. I thought he did a great presentation, and I think it would be great, and I think my brother would love it because when he sits on his deck at night and he hears the pickleball, they turn the music up and they try not to hear it, but anyway, I know this wasn't on the agenda, but I'm going to say it anyway. Comfort Station for Tenner Square. Have you all completely shut down on that idea? Just wondering, because I never hear anything about it anymore. And thank you for moving the barrier. That was, I almost hit it one night, and I appreciate the fact that it got done, that you deemed fit to see that it should be moved. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, Council Advisory Committee has items concerning legal, which must be conducted in a closed session, and we require a motion to go into the closed session to discuss the agenda items. And the motion is to move into a closed session to discuss the agenda items. Councillor Huntley, thank you. Second? Deputy Mayor, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council move into the closed session. The question is on adoption of the motion to move into a closed session. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And the time is 21:02.